This is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness. And let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shout it loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
sit your butt down.
Sit your punk ass down.
That's what I'm talking
Oh gosh! Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Eric Dawson Show. I'm here with Vincent Squire, who's hailing from Camden County.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, man. How are you?
Good.
Good.
How we doing this morning?
Yo, it's chilly out, and I was telling you earlier. You know, I mean, man, you know, my anxiety, yeah, every morning I try to get it under control. And you know, today's no different. You know, I'm better than I was about an hour ago. But that, along with the cooler weather now, you know, for anybody out there suffering from neuropathy, whew, oh my gosh, it hurts. You know, so, you know, like my fingers, my toes, my legs, everything is tingling. You know, and then, you know, I got a lot going on, Vincent. I'm, what do you call it? Anemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the anemia, the cold, gets to me, right? So I'm like an old person. I need a sweater all the time. And, yeah, so yeah, the beat goes on, man. But I'm here and happy to be here. Happy to.
You do know that that's a side effect of chemo.
Oh no, all of it is. I mean, dude, most of what I'm dealing with right now, the onset of arthritis, as a result of it, you know, was it last year when I was going through the issues with my teeth? My teeth were falling out because of the deterioration of the bone because of the 16 rounds of chemotherapy. I mean, you know, like literally, was it last year before last? You know, one day I just woke up. I tried to bite down on a cornflake, man, and the pain was excruciating. And so I called the dentist, and we went in. They did the X-ray, and then they started talking to me about the bone structure, how it had been deteriorating, and you know, so that the arthritis, you know, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, man.
Yeah. You know, dealing with the middle issue, I think I experienced anxieties when I first got sentenced, and I woke up in county, loud, foreign. It was like a continual nightmare. It was like Groundhog Day, waking up every day. I'm here, and I started, you know, thinking about family and everything that I was doing that I can't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was really building up. So one day I just said that no, I can't do 5 years every day reliving this nightmare.
Wait a minute, you were in county. You were in jail for 5 years?
Yeah, well, yeah, I got sentenced to 5 years.
Oh my God! So how much time did you actually serve?
4 years, 9 months, 13 days.
Dude, all right. So wait a minute, because we never talk. I mean, and you can stop me, but I'm a curious guy.
Yeah, hold on. You know what that turns out to
What?
be?
What?
That turns out to be. You ready for this?
Yep.
2,897,800 minutes.
So, all right. All right. So listen,
Before you get into that, how did I deal with the anxiety of it?
yeah. Well, how'd you know, how does one deal with all of it? Like the anxiety, just
Simple
the
fact, people coming to court lying, everybody taking all of your stuff, cars, houses, banks.
well, I'm talking, yeah, but yeah, we can talk about all of that, but just the confinement part of it. You know, like I,
The confinement is real,
I,
very real.
yeah, I could not imagine.
Living in an 8 by 9 cell
Yeah.
for 5 years, yeah, it's real. 1 hour a day that you have the choice between either rec or a shower, yeah, that's real. Yes. Forget watching TV and social media or reading books because there's a limited resource of that too until your family starts shipping you things. Yes, that is real. How did I deal with it? I got a Bible. I started reading more. And every day I woke up, I said, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Wow. You got to find something, right? I mean, you can't, oof. I can't imagine it.
Not to mention, dealing because prison has a great deal of entities and not everyone is on the same intellectual or educational level as you. So you deal with a lot of things like, that prison religion, the gang culture, the other groups and cultures. I mean, it's a subculture all to itself, and it all comes together. The prison rules, basically the game, understanding that, and the hierarchy in that. The police officers who, some. God, I mean, some of them be actually in prison. It's a pressure cooker.
And, we talk about on this show, socialization, institutionalization, mental illness, all those things.
There too.
Yeah, but when you have served your time, whatever time that is, or just having gone through the trauma, right, of the justice system, the unjust justice system when it comes to Black Americans, there again is there's no therapy, right, for that trauma. There's no treatment for the trauma, right? And I forgot the statistics, but they're staggering when it comes to the number of imprisoned people in America versus the number of imprisoned people throughout the rest of the world, right? And then within that number of imprisoned people, the disproportionate number of Black Americans that are in prison. Now, again, trauma.
In terms of trauma, prison is where Stockholm Syndrome rules. And the captives are not just the prison guards or the judges that that you are unjustly sentenced. You know that. Now, look, keep in mind, I got sentenced to 5 years. I have never had as much as a traffic ticket and spent more money on legal than I ever want to spend again. So that's how unjust the justice system is. But then you also look at the simple fact that, they've been giving out 5-year sentences because of the Bill Clinton crime bill. And the states, and at that time it was, $300 billion that they allocated, and every county wanted that money. So anybody who had what was a misdemeanor, they bumped it up in terms of the language of your crime and the aggregated circumstances to a third degree felony. And that's what got everybody 5 years. And so you're looking at somebody spending that amount of time and coming out, one, traumatized because you see a lot of people dealing with post-traumatic stress who were in prison, because there are a lot of things that happen in prison, brother. I mean, a lot of things. People get killed. Grown men get raped, gang raped. People tend to not understand the subtle nuances of group dynamics, basically meaning that this stuff belongs to me, so you can have it. So they take it by force. There are a lot of traumas that happen regularly.
Right, but so let's. The thing I love about this show is it's never scripted, right? We didn't plan to talk about this, but I think it is something worth talking about because it is something that's real in America and real in the black community. And so when we talk, Vincent, taking the scale all the way from the mistreatment of black Americans by law enforcement or by the justice system, take something as minor as being followed, right? We consider it to be minor, right? Some people do, so they just followed you. They turned off, they didn't stop you. But we talk about the microaggressions, right? And so that encounter starts to implant it into the psyche, who you are or who they say you are, how they treat you, and how you ought to behave in this America, right?
How they see you.
I'm sorry?
How they see you.
How they see you. And then it escalates either in your personal life, directly or indirectly, right? So even if you're never stopped, even if you're never imprisoned, I would dare say that most black Americans know someone who has been unjustly imprisoned, right? Who has had an escalated incident occur with law enforcement or with the unjust justice system, right? And so, though it might not have been you, in your psyche is planted the idea that one day it could be you, right? And it's just a matter of time before it could be you. And so you better walk this fine line or it may be you, right? And then all of the story...
I walked the fine line and it still was
and it still was you, right? And so... and so these examples that are made of many black Americans in America that kind of are intended to keep us in line, right?
Well, then you're looking at that's prison is the gift that for most people keeps on giving. Why? Because you do 5 years, you come out with nothing. So what do you do now that you have a record? There are, in the state of New Jersey, 1,900 obstacles for a person who has come out of prison. From everything from a job that you can get or cannot get, where you can and cannot live, who you see or cannot see. 1,900 obstacles. So rehabilitation is an uphill battle. I mean, I say a lot about Farrakhan, but one thing I admire is the simple fact that he came out and it's been over 20 years and he has not went back. Where the average prison revolving recidivism is in 3 months, 2 out of 5 return.
Yeah.
We're talking about losing support of family, because even though that you are unjustly sentenced and disproportionately sentenced, because black people, black and Hispanics maxed out in prison sentencing. 8-1 over a white person. Black people max out in terms of parole, or don't get parole, or what's called a parole hit, 9-1 for white people. So that gift just keeps on giving, and not to mention the stigma of the family, even though they know that you're unjust, but something in their psyche said that you were sentenced, so you must have done something, but nothing you've done to actually could increase to the punishment in what you deal with.
It's interesting. You're saying the gift keeps giving, but and I know that you're being facetious, right? But on the other side of this, the gift is giving financially, right? There's a monetary gain to the pain and suffering that's experienced on this one side, right? On the other side, there's a monetary gain. It is the investment within there is the investment that's made into the prison system, into the building, and all those other kinds of things. The contracts from everything from food to who's going to do the linen, to everything else that is there.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's $300 billion that every county in the country wanted a piece of, and every state. That's what they got. That gave. There's the rise in prisons and prison rebuilding. The rise in actual increase in, on the prison budget. You know, they not only made money off of the contracts that they sent out for linen, food, et cetera, they also made money on your money. When your friends and family sent you money, there was a charge against that. When you brought commissary, there was an absorbent charge against that. I mean, yeah, that money, that was just greed going wild and causing black people to bear the brunt of that. Not to mention, these politicians who run on being tough on crime and scaring people about the black man who's just coming into your neighborhood to rape, rob, and kill you. Yeah. I know this firsthand how real that is. And here's the worst thing about it. I have met so many people and men in prison who had such a strong level of creativity and understanding of things, who could put things together with minimum of nothing. Taking that mechanics and skills that they had, putting it into the corporate world, could have done some incredible things to our society. Yet, they are still locked into that stigmatism of recidivism.
Mm-hmm.
I've met some brothers who should be recording artists. Some who just freehand drawing and portraits, should be in a museum. Some who have written books that you're like, wow, where did this come from? Yet that skill is locked in prison.
Yeah. So, there is no, when we look at what is going on, and this is why, for me, Vincent, this election is so critical in terms of people paying attention to what's going on. You can't make up what's going on in the black community, right? All you need to do is drive through. What is that dinging?
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can mute it. It's my instant messenger. My computer is connected to my phone. See, I have an Apple, so I'm in this whole Apple ecosystem. My iPad, my iPhone, my MacBook Pro, And if I had an iWatch, the watch would all be connected. And so when you call me, it rings on everything. When you text me, it texts on everything. So I just muted it. So the texts are coming through. I'm a wanted man. Well, not wanted in that way.
Segue talking about prison and you're
Yeah. No. There are no wanted posters. I am no. What is the? I am in demand. Let's put it that way. So, I'm in demand. So, I'm actually working on some stuff for some folks out of Hillside who are running for the Board of Education. So full disclosure, right? I put it all out there. Some people have asked me to get engaged there. So I had said that I was gonna leave politics alone for a little while. But in light of what we're talking about on a local level, what I've been saying to you is this is where it counts, right? So where I can apply some leverage in terms of my skill and ability to ensure that qualified people are elected to begin to shift policies that are going to change the course, Vincent, of these young black men and women. I feel obligated to do so, even though I try to pull myself out of it. Much like a lot of other things in my life, since this rebirth, right after my battle with cancer, I just feel like I need to walk in a greater purpose, right? And I look at, all of the gifts that I've acquired over my life. And I ask myself, how can I best use those, not to enrich myself, but empower other people, right? It's crazy. Like this evolution has occurred just in the last couple of years. But, I see fewer days ahead of me than there are behind me. And the question is, what will be my mark? And I live that daily now. And so when I was called and asked to take part in this thing in Hillside, I said, look, my discussion about who's going to be president is less important than who's going to be president of the Board of Education in Hillside, right? My discussion about who's going to be president is less important than to know who's going to be sitting on the board making critical decisions about the curriculum for those kids in Hillside, right? So that's where my fight is, and I'm happy to be on board. But anyway, like I told you, I'm getting old. So when you ask me a question, I just go all over the place. But that's why it was dinging, because I had sent some copy and some artwork over to them, and they're responding because they need to go get it printed. But back to the thing at hand that we were talking about. So when you go through black communities and you see the way things look, you understand that there was intent, right? Wasn't by accident, it was intent. The question that I now ask is this: what are the intentional steps being taken to reverse it, to remedy it?
One that I see in our society is changing now is the simple fact of people coming to empowerment. The thing that they were doing in the 50s and 60s was I'm black and I'm proud, say it loud. Mm-hmm. Now we have let our foot off the gas of the black movement. Now it's starting to pick back up. The biggest and strongest is Black Lives Matter. And now people are saying, as that sits into your mind, wait a minute, Black Lives Matter. I'm black. My life should matter. So people need to, now that recognition is coming into point, Let us now focus on changing to show them that our Black Lives Matter. Let's take an active stance in our school board and who is actually shaping and developing our young and impressionable black minds. We need a board with the mindset of saying that, I am building members of society who will be valuable assets and contributors to the growth of our country and society as a whole, rather than saying, yeah, this one going to prison.
Right. But can I, and I think this is important. It may seem trivial, but I think it's important in terms of messaging and branding and marketing and all that stuff. Because we understand that in this country, and dare I say throughout the world, in terms of how they see us, to them, black lives don't matter.
Right.
Wait. So I would say, instead of the message being Black Lives Matter, right? I really think it should say Black Lives should matter. Because they don't right now, right? But they should. They should matter. The reason for the marching and the protesting and things is not because Black Lives Matter. It's because Black lives should matter. And they should matter, so to continue to send it should matter like every other life. And so I think that I'm going to just stamp a should in the middle of it. Like one of those rubber stamp like things. So where it says Black Lives Matter, I'm going to stamp in red should. Because I think that, and then at some point, right, maybe the evolution of that whole brand is that at some point you peel away the should, and they do. But right now they don't. And so I think that we need not fool ourselves. And so when I talk about the emotionalism of the street names and the emotionalism of painting the murals on the streets themselves, it is, I think it's because the message is a little off, right? So let's ground ourselves in the now, understanding what we're trying to get to. So we're trying to get to the idea where Black Lives Matter. But as long as we see, like the cop who just recently beat down the guy who was pinned down by two of them, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're still saying Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, they go, no, they don't. And they're beating us down and they're shooting us in the back 7 times. Yeah, so
here's what we ran into. And here is where I see the change. We ran into the situation where Black lives did not matter, which is evident by our neighborhoods, because because they treated us like our lives didn't matter, and we treated each other like our lives.
Absolutely. No, don't say treated. Well, see, you're using past tense.
No, because I'm speaking it in the past tense. Presently, now we're saying that Black Lives Matter. Now, and in saying Black Lives Matter, it goes with the premise of we have to teach people how to treat us, and standing up for the simple fact that, you know what, I am a human being and my life matters, gives us a level of empowerment that says that, you know what, I am not what you see me, I am what I am. I am what I am to become. I am not what you think I am, but this is what I am. The more that we start to stand up for ourselves, the less they have that they have that mindset and belief of what we are. Because one thing that we have been doing is falling victim to stay down, walk right, and you won't get hurt. George Floyd was a big proof of that. Compliance yet still died. No. The time for actually following their rules is over. Now it's time that we set the precedence of how they treat us, which changes how they see us.
Well, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that before we can really assert how they see us, that we should focus on how we see ourselves?
That's another part of it, yes.
Right? So when we call ourselves bitches and hoes, when we refer to ourselves as niggas, right? When we're prepared to sell drugs to our own community, when we throw garbage on the streets, when we accept substandard education, when we tolerate
substandard produces in our supermarkets too.
and we tolerate dirty water and environmental racism, when we do these things to ourselves, where do we have the high ground then to say to other people, you shouldn't do it to us?
Well, self-esteem first starts with self. At some point in time, there is a level in which people are fed up and frustrated with their current condition and want more. If they are honest with themselves, then they look at their part and how they contribute to that. If they're dishonest with themselves, they shift the blame to everybody else. When we get those people who are enlightened and look at their part that they had to play in it, and then they start to stand up for themselves, that's when it changes. Well, there is no way in the world that we should have, in the city of Newark, that they should have put up with the conditions of that water that has been leaving these children brain damaged. No way in the world. Low self-esteem. Been beaten down so much that it is now considered the norm. There is no way in the world that a city that has a $1 billion education budget fail the bulk of the students. There is no way in the world, if we believed in ourselves and stood up for ourselves, that should have happened. No way.
Right. So again, I look and say, all of these things, I want to focus on those things. I want to spend time on those things, because these things have been generations in the making, right? And somehow, because of what's happening right now, we have taken our eye off of the timeline, right?
Correct.
And the timeline of this stuff happening, has been, it preceded me, preceded you, preceded my grandparents, and dare I say my great grandparents, right? So those people, and here's the other piece of this, Vincent. We have, because of what's happening now, right, and because of how we've been whipped up and emotionalized, we've taken our eye off of those who we put in charge at local levels to be gatekeepers to protect us. And now they're able to hide behind the pandemic, hide behind Trump, hide behind all of this stuff, and in hopes that we ignore their failings. Did you understand what I'm saying to you? Like literally, like when we look at it all, the $1 billion budget in school budget in Newark, or in Irvington, or Hillside, or Camden, or Trenton, right? Or we look at what's taking place with the racial disparities in education in South Orange, or in Hoboken, or Jersey City, and we could keep going down the line. All of this has been generations in the making. And all of the people who were there, you know what they're doing now? They're pointing at Donald Trump. They're pointing at Donald Trump. Now, we can have the conversation about him. But I'm saying, please, people, don't let those folks off the hook. Don't let them off the hook.
I agree. Now that everybody has been emotionally charged, because Donald Trump's basis of emotionally charging the white voter is fear. First, it was fear of these Ecuadorians who are now in Mexico, who are coming to the United States, and we need to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Then, now it's the fear of the black man moving into the middle class areas with their low income housing and increasing crime and them robbing your house and raping your women. Now the black man is getting fear about or anger about, why are you now deflecting the issue of fear upon me? No. So yes, Donald Trump is leading the emotional charge, but we cannot stop with just him. We do need to change our school boards because they have failed our children. We do need to change our local politicians who are talking loud and saying nothing. We do need to change our politicians who are talking loud and doing nothing. We do need to change ourselves because we consistently teach them how to treat us, how they see us, and what they try to do is bad. But us laying down and taking it is even worse.
And like you said, this system is a system that keeps on giving, right? It's perpetual on both sides. So on our side, it keeps giving poverty, right? It keeps giving death, destruction. It keeps giving all of those things, right? Despair. On the other side, it gives prosperity. It gives economic separation, right? It builds wealth. It gives privilege. So this system is giving on both sides, but it's giving us the shitty end of the stick every day.
Yes, and I'm tired of getting the short end of the lollipop. Now, but also, what else it gives? It gives our children the same thing.
Well, but that's what we refer to on this show as the socially transmitted diseases, right?
Yes.
All of those. That's right. Go ahead.
I'd say socially transmitted disease in terms of group dynamics,
Yep.
or teaching your children how to accept the same bull crap.
Yep.
But I'm a parent. I work my behind off to make money to get my child educated so she can have a better life than me. Why do I want her to deal with the same things? Why do I want to sit down and talk to my teenage son about how to act when he gets pulled over by the police, because I know that it's going to happen and I want to keep him safe? Why do I have to sit up here and teach my child how to suck in the racial injustice when she stands in a line with her money, yet she is overlooked and they run immediately to a white person behind her? Why do I have to do that? No. I'm not doing that. I work way too hard for this. And my money is just as green. And my child is just as bright, if not brighter.
Well, you know what's interesting that you said this? So yesterday, and it shows you how we're impacted, right? There was a gentleman who came into the bakery yesterday. And he said, are you guys open? I said, no. I said the baker who bakes the cakes, he only takes customer orders. You have to call. And the guy got a little irritated with me, a black guy. And then he was with a woman. And then he saw the cobblers in the display, and he asked if they were for sale. So I said, yeah. I said they're $5 a piece. And so then he immediately got angry and aggressive, and he said, well, I didn't ask how much they are. You said they're like I could afford, like I can't afford it. I said, no. I said, I'm simply letting you know what the cost is. And so the woman, acknowledged that and said, no, he's just telling you what the cost is. And he was like, you could tell that he had experienced some trauma, right? So we're going to call it what it is. That something had happened that led him to act aggressively toward me, right? And so later on, he said to me that he was in a line, and there was a white person who was in line ahead of him, or a couple people ahead of him, and they gave the person like a $50 bill or whatever it was, and the cashier accepted the 50, and the person went on their way. He said when he got up there, he gave them $100 bill, and the cashier pulled out one of those markers to mark the
counterfeit.
Right, to see if it was counterfeit. And he asked, why didn't they check the $50 bill to see if it was counterfeit? And the cashier didn't give him a response. So now he carried that with him throughout the day, right? And then when he encountered me, right, is when the trauma of that earlier experience manifested itself in his aggression toward me, right? In thinking that somehow I was questioning his legitimacy, right? And
His ability to actually afford a $5 coffee.
His ability to afford a $5, all of those things, right? And so, go ahead.
It happens, Eric. That is the sign of PTS, post-traumatic stress, where the same thing comes up, even though it's not coming up, that tape is replaying in your mind, and it comes out into aggression, anger, and rage.
Right. And so for me, because I understood it, like I sensed something was happening, and I guess I'm more in tune because we do this show and we talk about it, right? And we try to resolve these things. I look to de-escalate the encounter, right? Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, what you wind up with, you're right, Mark, is displaced anger. What you wind up with is two people who are traumatized, who encounter each other, right? And then you get this thing where on the outside you go, wow, this is really irrational behavior. But it is evidence that there's some deeper stuff that is happening, or and not being addressed. And so, again, all intentional. Yeah. And then at the end of all of this, we were talking earlier about the prison system and all these other things that await you, right? So all of these traps are snares are in place, and you have to navigate them very artistically, very creatively, skillfully, in order not to wind up in this, being, the ultimate, right, which is encountering this unjust justice system, right? So let's assume I happen to have experienced the same trauma that guy did, or similar trauma, or unresolved or displaced anger, as Mark said. And then so now he came at me, I go back at him, right? Next thing you know, police are called, right? Because that is you understand what I'm saying? And now you're encountering this unjust justice system, and now things begin to spiral, right?
Right. And here's the thing of that gift that keeps on giving. See, he was fortunate that you're a black man who understands displaced aggression and where it comes from, being a black man. Doing that in a white store means that the white people become afraid and they call the cops, increasing his microaggression or his traumatic syndrome.
And then at the end of that, you have the police who are not, who again, how they see us, don't arrive at the scene to serve and protect us, right? They right, to de-escalate, to diffuse the situation. They come with more aggression, right? And then again, and a gun, and at the end of this process, right? If you don't navigate it correctly, you've got this system that's already set up for you, right? The cot is already made, right? The linens have been pressed and folded.
Get that jumpsuit and count it.
It's all waiting. If you don't navigate this thing,
the gift that keeps on giving. But at some point, you have to take a stance and say that this stops here.
No, so it's interesting. Mark said he felt safe to express himself that way to me. No, it really wasn't, Mark. What diffused it was the woman who was there, right? She diffused it because, well, I was looking the entire time because I couldn't understand. At first, I didn't understand it, right? My immediate reaction was, hey, listen, Ito's not here. If you want to order a K, you can order through there. And then when he asked about the cobblers, it was like anything else, right? Yes, they're for sale. They're $5 a piece, right? And everything that came at me from him from that point on, immediately I didn't understand it immediately, and then she intervened and said, hey, he's just trying to do this. And then it was interesting because I found validation in my response in her explanation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when she said, yeah, this is what he's doing, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I knew what I was doing, but when she said it, it gave validation to it. And I fear that if she weren't there, because, and this is trauma, right? So yeah, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to explain it to you again. But if you keep coming at me, I'm going to explain to you one last time. And then I'm going to say to you, get out. Do you understand what I'm saying, Vincent? So you, and if in those two chances, and maybe I give them two, maybe one, but in the calmness of where I am now, I'm going, yeah, I'd do this, I'd explain it. But depending upon how quickly it escalated, right? But she was there to diffuse it. And so, but again, over what? Over a $5 cobbler, right? Or over him asking a question about whether or not baked goods were sold there outside of, Ito taking special orders. Like, it was all benign stuff, but it became more serious because of underlying conditions.
Correct. And the black community deals with the major form of black community dealing with those underlying conditions is that we suck it up. We hold it in.
Yeah.
And then at some point, for something relatively small, all of the disparities and injustice that we have suffered or dealt with during a time period has now built up, and it blows up over something very small, which has nothing to do with the actual issue.
Right, and so all of these injustices that you say that build up, I'm saying now let's look at the timeline, right? Because the timeline didn't start when he encountered the cashier at the line, right? It preceded that. It preceded his parents. It preceded his grandparents and his great grandparents, and all of those pressures and things were passed down from one generation to the next, and then to him. And then he's carrying it, and he's undoubtedly going to pass it down to his children and any other person he encounters. And so this is the socially transmission of the disease that I'm talking about, right? Or one of them. There are many, but this is one. And it's not being addressed. And so,
no, it is being addressed. See, it's not being addressed by us. And one thing I learned about white society, when a black man cannot control his anger, the white society has a way of controlling his rage. Meaning, they call the cops. The cops come in not to defuse or the situation, but they come in with more aggression. So most people just suck it up, and it builds up, and we continue and continue on. So one of the most important things that we have to do in saying that this stops now is let's look at the root cause. Let's take it down to the root of where it is. A lot of black people experience injustice. Not your fault, but you are a victim of it. Injustice. You didn't do anything, but yet you're charged with a third degree. Injustice. You were in your neighborhood and your daughter gets raped. Injustice. You are sitting up here working your behind off, and some white kid who just came in there 3 months ago gets a promotion over you. Injustice. That we continue to actually suck up. When we stop sucking it up and take a stance is when we change the injustice. We may not change it for ourselves, but we can change it for our children. We have to stop taking it. It is time that we stand up. We are now in a situation where our injustices have led to us dying at a disproportionate rate by a president who basically ignores a simple fact. And the reason he ignores it is because he basically defunded every protection that we had to keep this from happening to us. We deal with this injustice right now where we are unemployed at a disproportionate rate, yet no help in sight for the government who has taken oath to protect and serve us. We have to stop taking it. It is time that we stand up. I don't care who you vote for, but you should be voting for a change. You should be voting for the same people who have been helping you to be oppressed. You should be voting for a change, for people who want to help you to succeed. We've got to stop that gift, or as you say, that socially transmitted disease. It has to stop. And you know what? I'm at the point now where I'd rather die taking a stand than to continually be on my knees begging the white man for my chance.
Yeah, it's a cycle of abuse, right? That somebody, some generation has to have the courage to say no more.
Bill Clinton talked about that cycle of abuse. His mother dealt with Stockholm Syndrome, where his stepdad consistently whooped her behind.
Mm-hmm.
And until his generation, Bill Clinton, stood up to him and said, no, this stops here and it stops now.
Yeah. And the question is, when is it going to stop?
When is it going to stop? It's simple. It's going to stop when you stop it. When you start teaching people how to treat you. It stops when you take a stand. Here's the big thing about bullies. Bullies are only bullies because you allow them. Once you punch them in the face, it changes their whole attitude.
Yeah. So
You may or may not win the fight, but what you do win is their respect.
And so for me, again, the commitment that I have on a local level to work on campaigns, it's because this is where I think, Vincent, the fight is. If we're not prepared to defend our education system, if we're not prepared to defend our water supply, our natural resources, if we're not prepared to defend our neighborhoods, then what does it matter? What does it really matter? What happens at the national level in Washington? If we're not prepared, if we literally allow them to steamroll over us and continue to miseducate our children, to continue to poison our water supply, to continue the environmental racism, right? So the air polluted, We allow all of that to continue. We know, Vincent, through science, that our children being exposed to high levels of lead, being exposed to all of the chemicals in the air, being exposed to the carcinogens in the water, we know, right? We know that them being exposed to unhealthy foods in our community, we know the outcomes. We know how susceptible it leaves us to situations like we're in now with this pandemic. And if we're not prepared, so we could talk all we want about how Donald Trump ignored the pandemic, right? We could talk about that. I have no issue with it. But
we could talk about how Cory Booker ignored the water.
Right. And how all of the other folks ignored the things that led to us being as susceptible as we are, right? Because of these underlying conditions, because of how our environment has impacted us. Mm-hmm. To be disproportionately at risk, right? So I'm going, don't allow those people off the hook. Don't allow them off the hook. Understand that they created this environment. They participated in the creation of this environment that left you susceptible to a guy like a Donald Trump. Right? So we got to deal with it all of it. And that's why, I keep saying the song that we play at the beginning of the show is so appropriate, that we got to tear it all down. We got to say no more any of it. Because in the end, the system is already set up for us to fail. And as you appropriately said, Vincent, it keeps giving. It's perpetual. It keeps giving us the shitty end of the stick if we don't tear it down. And it keeps rewarding them on the other side.
Correct. So part of that tearing down is us taking some self-esteem. Black lives matter. I'm a black person. My life matters. If my life matters, I should not be successful. It should not be exposed to anything that's going to cause me harm. And if it is, I am going to take a stand against it.
Yeah. So now, I saw you post yesterday, and I was looking for the information. It was in the thread that and you know what? I'm going to read this if I can find it.
Talking about that jackassery that's been going on for a couple of days?
So I got to read what I posted, guys, for you who didn't get to see it. And I kind of said what I said and wanted to leave it at that. So I haven't gone in and commented, but I have been reading the comments. But what I wrote was, I said, the anti-COVID vaccination rallies are nonsense. It's the worst kind of fear-mongering I've seen in a very long time, and all for personal gain. It is imperative that the Black Americans be represented in these trials. Otherwise, how will the science know how the drug affects Black Americans? Further, I saw some fear-mongering with regard to altering of sperm. And it was crazy. I saw that, and it was like, in trial 1, they said that people had to abstain from sex for, I think they said 6 months, right? I said the statement suggests that men who were involved in phase 1 of the trials were told to abstain from unprotected sex for 6 months, not just sex, unprotected sex. I said, I don't know the validity of it. I looked it up. I didn't see anything that said that was the truth, right? But I said it was or was not?
Was not.
Okay. So it was not true. But I'll tell you, in my 16 rounds of chemotherapy, right? I was told explicitly by the doctors that I was to abstain from unprotected sex for 12 months because
Yes.
of how the chemical whatever was in my body, and and so it would be transmitted in some way or whatever through sperm, right? So they said, you Eric, it is imperative. And so now, I want to know, and I'm sure that that's not the only time when a person is told to abstain from unprotected sex, right? There are probably other instances through medical treatment that you're told that. And so the fear mongering, even if it were true, Vincent, that and I'll let you expound on the untruthfulness of the claim, but even if it were true, to me, it would be a small effing price to pay toward working on a vaccine that's going to save your goddamn life, right? And so for me, to over sexualize black men, right, to say that, what, having raw sex is more important. Yeah, having raw sex is more important than saving lives. Isn't that true, black men? Wink, wink. Isn't that what she really meant to say in her post? Right? And so when she said it, see, we got to talk about it, right? And I know they listen to the show, so you know who you are, who said it. So feel free to call in. So you over sexualize black men, right, and hope to draw on that emotion in order to trigger a response that said, I'm not going to get involved in that trial. That might save my life because I'm so into having a hard-on and raw sex. Come on, let's talk about what you really meant to say. But let me finish what I wrote.
Go ahead.
I said, point is, there are side effects, and science and medicine tries to limit them in all trials. I said trials are meant to identify side effects in early stages, and then they make the necessary adjustments to minimize negative effects and improve effectiveness before it's released to general public. So I'm imploring all of you, and I said this in here, I said, please do not listen to conspiracies or to conspiracy theorists. It's important that you get involved and that you participate and help us try to save lives. Now, to that, the thing that I saw you post was that the trials have been completed in white communities. You post something like that? Go ahead.
Well, when I researched it, because I researched all the data that they had to support their facts, and all of their data was fake news, fake posts, made up brands, because you can always tell a made up logo, because what they do is they copy the original logo and post it to their bullcrap. So I looked at that. I saw that it was fake. I saw that it was made up. I investigated. Now, to answer your question, there are some medical procedures that say that you should not have unprotected sex because the medicine has a ability to weaken your immune system. Now, that is not what this trial is. This trial is designed, and this vaccine is designed to build up your immune system. So you know that part was a lie. And you were right. They're scaring you to say that and then some people translate unprotected sex to saying that you can't have sex.
Right.
Increasing the bullcrap conspiracy theory and the fake news. And here is the most important thing about the trial. In the white communities, they have gotten all the data that they need, which means that this medicine has a 97% success rate for white people. That's great. However, it affects the black community disproportionately. So we need the data from black people to make it more effective for the black people. One of the biggest reasons that people take an average of 3 to 4 different blood pressure medications is because none of those blood pressure medication trials were in the black community. And which is strange because the black people are disproportionate in high blood pressure. So that's why they keep finding something to work for you to make it right. Now, what we're looking at and what we're saying is, no, we're not saying that every black person should volunteer. What we are saying that the black people who do want to volunteer for the trials, get out of their way, jackass. Strange enough, it's incredible how you can pay a black man to make a statement that does not work in the interest of black people. But it does make an interest in the black man who is being paid to spread the fake news.
Yeah.
To harm other black people. Can we talk about, Negro whispering? No, slave catching. That is the biggest discredit you can ever do to the black community. Is to stand in their way of getting help. With lies, fake news. There are a lot of things that are happening to the black community which are true, and which you could put all of that energy and talent into rectifying and correcting. Yet something that is going to help the black community, yet the black A is standing in the way. I'm really getting tired of this jackassery from people who go to these white people and go, you give me money and I tell people not to do it. Yeah, they follow me, they listen to me. Dumbass.
Yeah.
Hey, Pastor, I know you watched the show. I know you listened to it. And yes, I said dumbass.
Yeah, I would dare, look.
I mean, Eric, come on. I mean, really, what good is it for, you to make a couple of coins, yet you enslave your people? What kind of black man are you?
Well, we see it throughout history, right? That it's happened. It happens every day in the black community. We've talked about it happening in the church. We've talked about it happening in politics. It happens. The question is, who's going to stand up and defend the community against it? Who's going to speak out against those people who are trying to cause harm, right?
It should be all of us.
It should be all of us. But part of the conundrum is that we have this this relationship, right, with melanin, right? So we say, well, this person's still my friend, and so, I can't, I'm not gonna say anything about him or her. I'll just speak quietly about them, in hidden circles, but I won't come out publicly and challenge what it is that they say.
Eric?
Yep.
You're my friend. When I say something that you disagree with, what do you do?
Oh no, I challenge it.
Okay.
and I look, I've made it clear that
makes you a better friend.
right. And so I want to be clear. I have friends, I have associates, I have acquaintances, right? I can have friends who I disagree with, that I have like strong disagreements with, and I pray that they change their thinking about some stuff. It doesn't mean that I don't much with you, Vincent. Doesn't mean I don't speak to you, right? It just means that I'm not, from my perspective, and my belief system, if there's something that you say that kind of rubs opposite of that, I'm gonna speak about it, right? And the same thing with folks who are out there, these anti-vaxxers, right? These anti-mask wearers, these conspiracy theorists who, say that COVID-19 is made up or whatever it is that they're saying.
Oh, you don't need to wear a mask. It's fake.
Yeah. I'm saying that's absolute craziness.
Eric, since they released the audio of Donald Trump saying how real and dangerous COVID-19 is, have they changed their position?
Well, no, because the money's still flowing. You understand what I'm saying? But the statement is, I saw somebody put it up the other day, and we've talked about it here. Even the conversation around masks killing you, right? It's like, oh, wearing a mask is kill you. It's harmful to your health. We've posed the question: how is it then that for I don't know how long doctors, surgeons have been wearing masks in surgery, 9-hour, 10-hour surgeries, right? My surgery was 8-9 hours. None of those doctors collapsed. None of the. How does it happen?
Right, because they rely on. See, the fake news gets its power from ignorance. When people are ignorant of truth, then fake news then becomes real. When we post a simple fact about, how these doctors do it for 9 hours and 12-hour surgeries, and they're still alive. Not to mention the fact that they're doctors who have studied to use
right. Can you imagine? Listen, it's just common sense. If I were a doctor, right, and I realized, so I went through medical school, I spent all of that money, all of that time, right, and let's say I'm a brain surgeon, and, the revenue I generate is, $7,000 per surgery, right, and I know that I gotta when I do a surgery, it's usually on average, say, 6 hours, and if I knew that me wearing this mask in any way could harm me and prevent me from making my $6,000 per surgery after spending all that time in medical school, don't you think that I would be kicking and screaming about some other, some alternative to wearing a mask? I want you to understand this. So now, and I'm talking about one surgeon, me, if I were a surgeon. Can you imagine now the entire medical industry, all of the surgeons who wear masks, don't you think that they would be up in arms about wearing masks? So, but you have John on the corner going, I'm not going to wear a mask. I just don't understand it. It's just crazy. But like you said, Vincent, because John or Mary or Fuquan or Ali, they don't read, right? They just listen to the conspiracy theorists, right? Because they want to revolt. They want to rebel, right? They want to be nonconformists. That's their mission in life. And so they look for anything where there's nonconformity, and they say, yep, that's what I'm a part of. I'm a part of chaos, confusion. And then those who are the authors of it get to benefit, and they get paid to do it. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They get paid to do it. You die, and they don't even come to your funeral. They don't look after your kids. They don't admit the simple fact that they were wrong. All they do is do their job, get their paycheck, and then you deal with the consequences. Really? I'm not going to be anybody's freaking stuck dummy. For their pocket, their wallet, increasing their family's value.
But here's the thing. Now, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh, here we go.
I know. Because when I say it, the word's going to get out, and then it's going to be whatever. But when you get your hair done, right, and you get, whether it's a perm or you got it straightened or whatever, to be on Facebook Live, to be presentable to those people who are paying you when all the time, that you were on Facebook Live in the community, right? You didn't feel the need to dress up. I just shake my head. I'm like, so you polished up for those white folk, right? Because they told you to. They said image is everything. You got to sell it all.
Right.
But when you on Hawthorne Avenue, you got ponytail, you in your everyday clothes. Like you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm like, I looked at it. I'm not gonna mention names, but it'll get around. But I'm looking, going, wow, really? Cause
gonna call.
I know, my phone's gonna go. But really, I mean, it's so transparent. It is so transparent.
It is. It's so transparent. But you know what? More than the transparency of it, it's sad. It's truly sad. And I love my people. I love my people, and I want my people to progress and grow. But sometimes we have just a strong level of displaced priority. It's frightening, Eric. I mean, it's truly frightening. Okay, you can go through all of this with Facebook Live, because you got your little blog on and you got your followers, but you cannot do something to save your life, like wear a mask. Is a mask too much to ask for to save your life and those of the people around you? Because not only are you affected by this virus, but they're affected too when they come in contact with you. Yet we still deal with people who are caught up in the jackassery. I know. Listen, those of you, look, if you're upset about this, fine. Unfriend me. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Unfriend me,
Yeah.
Talk about me, call my mother, whatever you're gonna do. And by the way, if you call my mother from the grave, tell her I said hello. Okay.
Yeah. I just I hope that the army of intelligent people, win the day here, because it's going to be apparent. I mean, they're saying now, and we talked about this yesterday, 2024 before there's a vaccine. Fauci's saying, right? And so when you have this battle of people who are talking herd immunity and not really understanding what they're talking about, and I think I laid this out for you guys before, right? So for all of the black folk who think that they're intelligent, right, who are saying, we should be looking at herd immunity. I think not only was it the CEO from UMD&J or Rutgers University, but there have also been other doctors who've pointed out, and I would dare say even the doctors on their side, right, who their credibility is shaky, would have to admit this, that there are going to be a lot of people that have to die, right? A lot of people will be infected, and a lot of people will die as we go through this process of herd immunity. And it would be more than 100,000 or 200,000. It would be 200 million people, right? And so in the process of that, those who are infected, what percentage of them would be black Americans or black people globally? And when we look globally at who is impacted the most, right? Because of inadequate health care, right? Lack of health care, lack of resources, all of those things. So now, through this whole process of herd immunity, who would die at the greater disproportionate rate?
Well, let's look at the science. The science now dictates that the proportionate number of blacks who die from this virus are 7 out of 10 for black and Hispanics. 7 out of 10.
Right.
So let's look at now we're at over 190,000 deaths.
Yeah.
Look at that being 70% of your friends and family. That doesn't make sense. So at this disproportionate rate, and see, herd immunity takes on a fast scale 6 years to happen. Because basically the community, there's enough death and people catching these at such a rate that now people have now developed a inoculation to it, or your immune system has now caught up to the fact of the trauma and the disease around it, or basically Darwinism.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're talking about six years at the earliest of multiple black deaths. Does that really make sense?
Right, but let's follow this all through for a second, right? And this is why the phone never rings. Right, and so Diane is correct, because that's exactly what I was getting ready to get to, Diane. You need to have a final expense plan. Right? So I was just going to get to that. So when we have the conversation about where the black community currently is in terms of wealth, in terms of financial literacy, in terms of all of these things, we say, okay, fine, we're going to go the herd immunity route. Is the black community ready for it? Is it ready? When you see GoFundMe pages go up, right? So, like I said, I've had over a dozen former classmates die from complications from them having COVID-19. And I saw 3 post GoFundMe pages. Right? Now, I guarantee you that everybody listening to this show, they know people, multiple people, whose family members have passed, not just during COVID-19, this age of COVID-19, but in general, and they didn't have the financial resources to be able to handle the funeral costs, so they've had to put up GoFundMe pages. So, now, how many GoFundMe pages would have to now go up during the 6 years that you're talking about of trying to usher in herd immunity? And so if I got to put a GoFundMe page up for my family, how am I going to contribute to your GoFundMe page? Right? Or your multiple GoFundMe pages?
Their friends and family, which means that yes, that is now multiple GoFundMe.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You got 10, I got 15, you got 30 GoFundMe pages going. My family got 27 GoFundMe pages going. Let's take this caller, and then we'll answer that question. Go, caller.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just wanted to add to the conversation about the herd immunity. And now I've heard the president talk about a herd mentality last night. But one thing I want people to understand, when these people start talking about herd, they're talking about a lot of people dying.
Yes.
That come to your mind. But and the most dangerous thing to the planet is grazing herd. People, I mean not people, but animals with their head down, just chomping off at the planet, all the vegetation, and just makes the earth barren. And it destroys large swaths of land. But not to get too far off into that, but herd immunity takes at least 2 or 3 generations to kick in. So we're not just talking about now, we're talking about 10, 15 years for the first generation, 15, 30 years for the second generation, and then people start becoming immune to that. What they're talking about is Darwinism and survival of the fittest. And especially when they start talking about herd mentality, what that means is mob mentality, or just the mob rule, and all of this sick way of thinking causes all of this death.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mike. Mike, so you say survival of the fittest, right? So when we lay it all out right now as it stands, who is the fittest?
Yeah, the fittest is the 1%.
There we go.
Hold on. But the Civil War, the plantation owner had to force people to fight his battle to uphold slavery. And this is what Donald Trump and all of these 1%ers are doing. They got all these poor fools out here thinking that they close to something that they not even been, they nowhere near close to being. So, they gonna be fine. It's us fools that's in the desert of our minds talking about not wearing a mask and don't get a vaccination, don't do this, and they got a plot against us. People out here are just crazy. W.E.B. Du Bois said it best. Either America is going to destroy ignorance, or ignorance is going to destroy America. And we're right there. We're right there. Ignorance is at a dangerous level. And we're especially, some of the most sophisticated talking people on the planet are saying some of the most ignorant stuff. And going along with ignorant stuff. So, yeah, but I had to just pull over and add to that conversation, man. I ain't want to get y'all off track.
And I appreciate you, brother. You too. So we do have to be very graphic, right? If we're going to have the conversation about herd immunity, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about the number of people that are going to die. Let's talk about the impact of all of that. Let's talk about the instability that exists within the black community as far as families are concerned right now. Let's talk about the financial instability that exists within the black community, right? So let's talk about all of those things and now say, well, what would be the impact, right, of Big Mama dying, right? Because that's a real possibility now, right? So Big Mama dies, and she's currently raising these
5, 6 of her grandkids.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, it's not just the fact of Big Mama dying, and you ain't going to get her turkey dressing every Thanksgiving. It's the fact of Big Mama dying, and now you have to find another, or the state taking over to be the guardian of your child. Let's look at not only Big Mama dying. Let's look at the other people in the families, because Big Mama is not just her. Let's look at members of the church. There is a church in Utah who the pastor went to the Trump rally, right? He contracted COVID-19, and because Trump opened up the churches, he had spread it to his congregation. I'm sorry, not Utah. I think it's Vermont or one of those other northern countries, states. His church is the largest spreader of COVID-19 in that state. And even though people are dying and contracting it, he's still having church services. Let's look at that impact. Not the fact that you're catching it, but it's more who you're spreading it to.
Yeah.
But we got jackasses that go around talking about you don't need to wear a mask, and this is fake.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart even stated, because he's doing some movie projects, and they test everybody, he found out that he had COVID-19 3 times. Dwayne Johnson, better known as The Rock, said that he had it twice and spread it to their families. Now, he may be lucky because of his money and being able to get very good health care. But what about you? See, herd immunity does not work. Herd immunity kills lives. And herd immunity kills black people at a disproportionate rate. Because we are the disproportionate recipients of this virus. You know, we've got to stop the jackassery. You know, slave whispering, Negro catching, you know, listening to these people who are talking all of this, you know, prison conspiracy, you know, the white man is doing this against you. No, there are a lot of things that the white man is doing against you. But this ain't one of them.
And here's the question that I would ask too, right? So for those people, because I always say, you know, support whatever cause you're for. So if we can agree on the impact, right, and maybe there is no agreement, but I want to try to get to a baseline agreement on the level of devastation that might occur within the black community if we were to follow this theory of herd immunity. And then I say, well, okay, now, what are you willing to put up in terms of life insurance, in terms of, right, all of the other things, medical relief? What are you willing to put up? So you want this thing. I'm saying let's understand what the impact is going to be, and then you answer for me and for those people. They should demand, I think, say, well, okay, fine, this is the path you want us to take. Then what are you going to put up? How are you going to be supportive, once this thing starts to hit? Or are you just going to go cash in your checks? Right? And
checks that you're getting from the white man.
Yeah, and cut down. Yeah, and just cut and run. You know, is that what you're going to do? Or you going to stay, right? Are you going to make sure that you have the financial wherewithal to take care of your healthcare needs and in the life expenses and all that other kind of stuff? Or are you going to make sure that those people who you've herded together and have marched off this cliff, right? Are you going to make sure that their family, that their offspring, that they're okay? You know, what are you going to do?
In short, you going to give up that money that you made, telling people that, you know, they don't need to wear masks, that they don't need to get a vaccine. You're going to give up all that money that you made and telling people not to do it to support the lifestyle of these families who died from this disease.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that? What's your guess on that, Eric?
Oh,
you think they don't do it?
Nah, I don't think so. But I'm telling you, listen, man, people can be tripping over GoFundMe pages. Look. So what I would say is this, right? Here's another industry, because GoFundMe ain't gonna get it done. So somebody can think of some other online, right, crowd sharing solution, because that's what's going to be needed. You're going to need to have some massive fund that people can draw from, right, in order to bury their loved ones, especially within the black community. I mean, globally, yeah, but I'm speaking specifically about, the devastation in the black community. So, all of software developers or all of the entrepreneurs, put your hats on and start thinking, because, if that's the direction, that the majority of people want to go, or, if they force it by, showing up in public and wanting to get in your face without a mask on, this is what we're heading toward, because we're not going to have a vaccine, a workable one, until 2024, according to Fauci, or something like that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, don't come in my face without a mask. You're going to be thoroughly surprised.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now. I'm already there. No, don't come in my face without a mask. Look, I went to my barber yesterday, and he expressed to me the mask that I had a 40% ratio of containing the virus, and gave me one of his own. No. We ain't playing.
Yeah.
We ain't playing. You take all that, look, we said it on the show before, so there's not going to be anything new. If you believe that, we don't need to, people don't need to take the trials and you want to stand in their way, and you don't believe that this COVID-19 is real, you don't believe that people need to wear a mask, why don't you do society a favor? Die! Because we want to live.
Yeah.
Just die. Please. Get out of my face. Quit posting on Facebook. Quit lying to people. Just die. Kill yourself. Don't kill me. Don't kill my family.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and when you contract it, right? Don't put frontline workers at risk. Right? Just stay home. You got it now. Just stay home.
There you go.
Don't go coughing in somebody's face. Yeah, just go deal with it. Suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, because I got family members who are, hospital workers and such. Don't put them at risk.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
I got a cousin who's a doctor who caught it.
Yeah, man. So what else is going on, Vincent?
Okay, so Trump does his rally in Philadelphia, which I was on the news.
Oh yeah. Do we have a clip of that? Oh no, you said you couldn't find one.
No, I couldn't get it. I've contacted ABC about my clip, and I didn't get any response.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is that yesterday he said herd mentality, not herd immunity, which Papadopoulos corrected him and said, "You mean herd immunity?" And he was silent on that. He did state, oh no, I didn't play it down. I didn't play down the virus. I played it up, which we heard on the tape him saying, yeah, I play it down. I like to play it down. I still play it down now. So we now come, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to come to the conclusion that Trump wants people to die. Oh, by the way, is it a big reason that we're getting a lot of misinformation from the CDC? Is guess what Trump?
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think? Do you really believe that he wants people to die, or do you think that? Do you think his motivation is that he wants people to die, or do you think his motivation is that he wants to just be reelected at any cost, and whatever the agenda that that he's pushing and those who are behind him are pushing is just that important, and so there will be casualties, and the casualties are that the people will die. I mean, you understand what I'm saying to you?
Well, that means he wants people to die.
No. It simply means no. It may just mean that he doesn't care if people die. Not that he wants them to die, but he doesn't care if they die. That's what I'm getting at. So you're.
He doesn't care if they die because that's considered collateral damage.
That's absolutely right.
He does not admit publicly that the strength, the danger of this virus is real because he defunded the actual CDC department that does the advanced research and cure of pandemic and infectious diseases. So he wants to cover up his actions so that he can get re-elected.
Well, so you have somebody in the thread who says, no, he's worried about mass hysteria.
Yeah, he's worried about mass hysteria. This is the president who lives off of mass hysteria. His first campaign was based upon the mass hysteria of these people coming into the United States through Mexico who are going to rape you, rob you, kill you, or take your job. He lives off the mass hysteria of saying that, these black people are now moving into the middle-class white suburban neighborhoods so that they can cause harm to you and rape the white women and rob your homes. He lives off of the mass hysteria of everything. His whole campaign is based upon fear of other races harming the white community. So tell me, where does he want to keep mass hysteria down? Oh, about this pandemic. And he's done nothing to protect people on. Don't worry about it. It's going to go away. It hasn't gone away. Let's look at it. In terms of industrial nations, we are at the bottom. We are now 40% of the casualties. We have 40%. We've got more casualties in countries that are larger than us. Come on, people, when are we going to wake up? When are we going to realize this and take it into our own accounts that our health and wealth and safety of our families, it's not in our president, it's in us. When are we going to look at the fact that, see, here's the whole issue. People believe the lie because they don't want to be wrong. So they look for anything to justify.
Well, I agree. I agree with that. I think that the fact that that Republicans can't say at this point that Donald Trump lied, right? That Donald Trump knew. So those are just very basic things, right? So it's Dre Sandrod who's in the thread right now. So of COVID-19. That's like the first question, right? That I would ask you. Can you admit to that? Can you admit to the fact that he had information that he said he didn't have? Can you admit to the fact that he downplayed it? Now you can argue that he wanted to lessen mass hysteria or whatever it is that you want to say, but the question is, can you admit to these things? And failure by folks to admit to them is simply because they have a narrow focus of wanting, of not wanting to admit that they were wrong, right? That they were in support of a guy, and still support a guy, and that they were wrong about, right? And they were wrong about some things, and then justifying their continued support, right? Makes it a little more difficult to do, but it lessens your credibility at the end.
It does, and it also lessens the credibility of our country and its people who are there. It puts people in harm's way who should not have been. The biggest thing that we had against the Vietnam War was that it was a war that we were fighting, that we didn't have to, that we put our sons, daughters, and fathers in harm's way for a senseless act, for a senseless war. Yet we have this virus that is putting our families, our fathers, our brothers, our mothers, and our children in harm's way. And it should not have been. He still has not taken a national stance or a plan of action because he wants the economy to grow so that he can be reelected. He still has not admitted to the fact that, gutting the CDC was a wrong thing to do. He still has not admitted to the fact of anything. He wants to continue on with the lie. America, please stop drinking the freaking Kool-Aid. God.
All right, so off of Trump, man, because I'm not going to give you 10 more minutes to beat up on Trump because you haven't talked about the Democrats, right? So, like I said, you got to have, we talk about him, but we got to talk about them too. So, go ahead. No, or we could pick another topic. So I gave you ample. I gave you.
Let's talk about the Democrats. We still got those do nothing Democrats who are still sitting up there burying their heads in the sand. Yeah, we still got that. Yeah, I mean, we still have those people who are just sitting up here letting things happen and then saying that, oh, well, it's all Donald Trump's fault. I get a pass. Yeah, we got that. We still have that. Come on. Like I said, stop drinking the Kool-Aid, people. We've got an election coming up, and now it's time for us to make some changes. That's all I want to say. You know, look, and we still have those old things in which we are fighting. But one of the biggest things that we can do is, you know, to get the foot off of our necks is, you know, let's start acknowledging what we're dealing with. Truthfully, let's stop shifting the blame. Let's stop dealing with these people who are pandering your vote just because they want to stay in office. Well, like I said, you know, those politicians that are talking loud and doing nothing, those politicians that are talking loud and saying nothing, come on, let's stop that. We keep talking about getting back to norm. No, I'm saying let's now start putting together a new norm.
So let me ask you a question, because I've been unplugged, and I'm going to plug myself back in a little while. You know, I've been preoccupied with, you know, a bunch of other things, right? But and I got to tell you, I feel like I've gone through detox. So but I'm being very honest, right? Because I had been, you know, I spent a lot of time, you know, watching all of the left-wing media, right? MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, right? All those stuff, ABC, NBC, CBS. And then I went cold turkey and was just watching Fox News for like 2 months. Right? Like literally didn't watch anything else, just Fox News. And I was like, yo, like alternate universe, right? Not saying right, wrong, just saying alternate universe, right? Because what was being spoken on those other stations was absolutely not being spoken of in the same way on Fox News. So completely different universe. Then I ended that and was and have been watching nothing. Right, so I feel like my system, you know, is cleansed. So, so I'm gonna get. I think I'm gonna get a second television and put it right next to my first one, or maybe just do the split screen and have Fox. Maybe get 3, right? Because I want to have Fox. I want to have MSNBC, and then maybe C-SPAN, right? Oh God!
Ultimate universe.
Yeah, like and have those. So when I start showing up on the show, I will like have fed myself all of that simultaneously and be able to spit something out. Going into the home stretch of this thing. But right now I am I'm unplugged, so I don't know what the headlines are. I haven't read anything.
Well, locally,
but it seems like things are the same.
Jersey. Real quickly, Cherry Hill School Board decided to do virtual education. Children are learning from their computers. Now, we're talking about one of the highest tax and income per person areas in South Jersey. Right? Actually, they are 5th in terms of revenue. Now, right. You've got these people who are out there complaining, and they want them to open up their schools. But then I looked at it, and, you know, they made such a big thing about this massive rally in support of them opening up schools. There were only 15 people out there. 15 people.
Yeah.
And here was the worst thing about it. You know that there are always Negro whispers and slave catchers in every group and rally, right? Here's this woman who is supporting Donald Trump, got her Trump thing on. She's an Hispanic woman. In fact, Yeah, she's an immigrant. She's barely speaking English. She represents everything that Trump uses, to scare people. Yet she's out there talking about open up our schools, open up our economy.
Yeah.
The irony of this, brother, is actually staggering. The level of ignorance and jackassery is at an all-time high. I think people need to stop doing this. I mean, truly, really, stop doing this. You are hurting everyone with this. You know, as we say in the opening of the show, set your
Yeah. But you know what? I want to comment with the last 4 minutes. Dre Sandrock, I'm with you on this. You know, he said let's talk about, which is what I try to get us focused on too. TOO, right? Which is he said let's talk about the most dangerous cities in America, and that they're Democrat-run cities. Right? He said it's a fact that 19 of the most dangerous cities are Democrats. Got it. And so I don't disagree with that, right? And we need to be dealing with that. I think that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can deal with, or we should be dealing with these do-nothing Democrats, right? I agree. No more black faces without black voices. And then beyond that, I'm Black American before I'm Democrat. I agree with all of those things. But I can also look and say that guy over there is a liar. But then I look and say, but that guy got there because of this screwed up system, right? That we need to tear down. So it's not just about identifying that guy. It's about paying attention to the system and tearing the entire system down. So I can look at it all. I'm concerned about.
In Trump's talk last night, he wants to defund those Democratic cities. In fact, he has. But he's talking about, no, I'm all for the police. Defunding those cities means that you're actually taking the resources that they would use to fight these crimes.
Right, I agree. So okay, we got 2 minutes. So we got somebody in the thread who says, so wearing a mask, he says, so wearing a mask prevents us from the disease, question mark. Is that all it took for those that succumbed to this disease was wearing a mask? I think we should wear one if we think it helps. But the people that can't wear masks due to health shouldn't be shunned. Right? So
okay, here we go.
Yeah, right. So this is the maximum. So this is the maximum sophisticated confusion, right? Firstly, I don't know if we were talking about people who have health conditions that don't allow them to wear masks, right? But what I would say is, if you have a condition that does not allow you to wear masks, if in the front of your mind is the fact that you could be asymptomatic carrying COVID-19, what precautions are you taking to protect me?
Nothing.
Here we go. So you want to divert, you want to distract by putting this in the thread, right? So I'm saying at the end of the day, even the person who may not be able to wear masks because of whatever the conditions are, whatever health conditions they have, if they have a middle finger up toward me and the community at large and saying, I don't give a shit if I am asymptomatic, I'm going to walk out, cough in your face, talk in your face, then I'm saying that they are as dangerous as anybody else. Right? What were you going to say, Vincent?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So listen, anyway, we're at 12 o'clock. I'm throwing it to you, Vincent. Before you take it away, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the day. It seems like a glorious day outside. Fall is definitely in the air. Hey, Vincent. And wear a mask, God damn it. Go ahead, Vincent.
Listen, people, it's time that we wake up. We stop drinking the Kool-Aid. We stop believing the false news. We stop listening to things that are fake, that prove or support the fact that we were wrong. Let's come to the realization that we've made a mistake. Let's come to the realization that we've got the wrong person as a leader. Let's come to the realization, once we do that, we can wholeheartedly change our environment, our circumstances, and our atmosphere. Let's look down line. It's time that we take a stand against those do-nothing Democrats, those rhetoric-stealing Republicans, and those people who are talking loud and saying nothing. We got too many issues to address, and our leaders are not addressing them. All they're doing is maximum sophisticated confusion. But the science is true. What gives us a great deal of safety is what we say every day. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Keep your social distance. Don't go out unless it's absolutely necessary. Be safe, everyone. Be careful, because you are one of the most important people in this world. And without you, the world changes. So, on behalf of Eric Dawson, Diane, who's online and enjoying the show, our Queen of Media, I'm Vincent Squire. If it's God's will, we'll be back tomorrow.